Hello, 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 everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you all are. Welcome to our webinar today, Intersection of CDPs and AI. My name is Sav Ketan. I'm Director of Product Marketing and Strategy at Tealium, and I have two awesome guests with me. First is Jeff Lunsford. Jeff, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, Sav. It's great to be here. I'm Jeff Lunsford, one of the founding investors of Tealium. I have about 30 years in enterprise software, most of it in dealing with real-time data. Had a stint running Webside Story, which was the world's first real-time web analytics platform, which is now part of the Adobe stack, and streaming content around the world in real time with Limelight Networks, and then helped Mike Anderson and Ali Benham start Tealium with a vision that data was growing in an unmanageable volumes, and we needed to build a neutral data layer to capture all that data and help customers understand it, enrich it, and activate it. And excited to be here with our great partners from Zion and Zion.
Yeah, and that's what a great segue. Aric, so nice to have you. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, Sal and Jeff. Good to see both of you guys again. I think the last time in person was at Digital Velocity in San Diego.
Yes.
I'm Aric Zion, one of the partners and CEO at Zion and Zion. We are typically, I would sum it up by saying we're typically considered the leading boutique agency, let's say sub 100 people, in the CX and CDP space. What we focus on is we have a CDP center of excellence filled with data engineers, solutions architects, CDP use case strategists, etc. And the main thing we work with our clients on is accelerated CDP strategy development and accelerated deployment. And I know later today we're going to talk about one of the really exciting CDP meets AI use cases that we've developed and deployed for our client. So I will stop there and turn it back to Sav.
Thank you. So Jeff Lunsford, our awesome CEO at Tealium, and Aric, one of our premier partners. We've been doing a lot of webinars this year with Aric and his team, and they have a lot to offer. So I can't wait to get started. So what drove the need for this session? So we've been talking about AI, I think, at least nonstop since 18 months, if not more. And we all thought it was this solution to so many problems. It changed almost all strategies and plans coming into 2024, as far as I can remember. Many said easy button, magic bullet, whatever you want to call it. But honestly, now 7-8 months into this wave, I don't know if everybody feels that AI is everything it was supposed to be on some level, and on other level, it seems magical. So that's what we want to talk about today. While 90% of enterprises across the world have deployed some sort of AI in production, Gen AI or foundational AI, things are just not as easy as people expected. So that's what we want to unlock. We want to talk about where we stand today and what it actually feels like versus what we thought it was going to be. So Aric, let me start with you first. And you probably get a lot of customers asking you to implement their AI ambitions and initiatives. What are you finding when you're implementing these? How are you guiding your customers? What are you finding as roadblocks? Where are you finding success? What can you tell us about your experience implementing AI?
Yeah, so I think the first step they say in dealing with a problem is admitting you have one, and I think this can resonate with a lot of people out there. What we see from a lot of clients is no vision, no strategy, just tactics. Meaning, somebody in the C-suite says, "quote What's our AI strategy?" And the problem is there's no such thing as an AI strategy. There's strategy with a big S. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? How do we want to differentiate? How do we want to position ourselves, etc.? And AI is really a tactic to help accelerate that strategy, to make certain implementation portions of it easier. So sure, we see a lot of people doing RAG and chatbots and using AI for meeting summaries and insights, but you can abstract it out to what we really see is process improvement through AI and information access, things are getting faster and more accurate, but not a lot that is quote unquote new. One of the one of the things, and I actually throw up, I've only brought one slide with me today, which is fortunate for all of you. I'm going to throw up this slide real quick because I think this is one of, probably in the past 6 months, one of the things I'm most proud of. What you're looking at here is what really we consider to be one of the most innovative applications of AI, certainly in the CDP space. And you'll notice Tealium on this chart. So this application used Marchex contracting, Tealium, Google Cloud, et cetera. And the client was Closet Factory. And what we did here was use AI to extract information, contextual information, not just listening for words, from call center calls, process it, gain insight, and use it to activate through Tealium in multiple advertising, marketing automation, activation platforms, et cetera. And we actually did this in 90 days. And this is what we're getting probably the most buzz around with our clients is, how do I do that? You're using AI to collect zero-party data. Then you're cleaning, consenting, filtering, it's through Tealium, and you're taking it all the way to activation. But this is context-driven inputs or contextual inputs, not just access of information like through a chatbot. So this, the groundbreaking use cases are slow to come, but I believe this is one of them. And I think it really foreshadows a lot of what can be done with CDPs and AI. If you think of strategy, where did you want to go? And in this case, the strategy was, how do we give an incredibly personalized experience that takes advantage of everything we're hearing when a customer calls? And how do we wrap that up and activate on it? AI happened to be a better answer than other existing answers, but it did not start with, what's our AI strategy? Okay, so I'll stop there.
So what I heard you say was, if you don't have a strategy to start with, AI is not going to solve the problem. And you need, just from that slide that you showed, there were so many different tools, but you need some tool in there that is able to bring everything together, add context, make sure it's consented, and then send it to the right place at the right time. Like, you needed that engine in addition to everything else you had.
Absolutely. The components in there, including the Tealium CDP, not one component out of the 5 or 6 in that diagram was replaceable, if you will. And they all just basically got on supercharged, in horsepower, because AI could feed them better information. And then also Tealium making sure that information, was consented and filtered, et cetera, especially the first party data being picked up from the website, all that activity tracking, et cetera. And then we had to obviously do consent management for the call center portion as well. But Tealium did, all of the activation heavy lifting in that application.
Very, very cool. Jeff, let me ask you, like, you sit on a slightly different side of this fence. You're as a vendor, not as an implementer. How does this jive with what you're seeing with your customers?
Well, I think what Aric showed is a great example. And I was at a large chip company yesterday with their team and have another great example. So, the Tealium, we're one of the few companies out there that say we're not an AI company. We're an AI enabler, right? We allow you to fuel your AI initiatives with clean, consented, enriched data. And then we allow you to activate what comes out of those models or those algorithms and enhance a customer experience based on, however you've modified a profile. And so with, I'll give you this real world example. Yesterday, global chip company, that is taking their data layer, which was built with Tealium. They have 912 visitor attributes that are all updated in real time, all day long, every day, based on what people are doing on the website. They have 80,000 product SKU, and people are looking at products, and they will take all of that behavioral data that they're capturing, and they will send it to an LLM. And what they want to do is fuel their sales team as well as their digital experience with suggested additional products to look at. And it's in the old days, you would kind of have a next best action. You would kind of have an if then flow in the middle that would suggest if this, then next best action that. The beauty of an LLM is you can just ask it a question. You could say, factor in all this visitor data that I have. I know everything they've been looking at, all of their badges and metrics, all the behavioral data. Contemplate that and look at all of our 80,000 SKUs. You're trained on that. And now suggest to me, what kind of project do you think this person's looking or working on? What industry do they work in? And then what are the 3 other products from our data, from our inventory that we do have in supply that you think we should recommend we expand the conversation with? And that is a great example of how people are using well-structured data. In what this gentleman said, he's in a couple of user groups in other large companies. He said everyone's management teams are asking them, and every board of directors is asking every management team to do 2 things. Hey, grow top line with AI fueled experiences, help us grow faster, but also do everything much more efficiently, and either reduce headcount or just get these more productivity out of the people we have using AI as well. So you kind of have this top line, bottom line, and then you also have build it in house, or you have using off the shelf solutions. And every management team across the enterprise companies that we work with are looking at those 4 quadrants and saying, okay, how can I go top line? And do I build it myself with all these cool tools that are coming out, or do I use something from a vendor? Or what ends up happening is it ends up being just like the slide that Aric showed. It's a blend of 5 or 6 different solutions. And but at the end of the day, you are not going to be successful with any of these new tools if you do not have what this company had, which is a 5-year data strategy where they've decided very thoughtfully what data do they want to collect about first-party data, do they want to collect about their customers and their prospects, and how do they want to enrich those profiles and cultivate those profiles. And AI and LLMs are just one use case. We also have customers that are taking this behavioral data and feeding it into fraud algorithms. This is a financial services provider, and it's helping them pick up additional fraud. So another place where they have very clear use cases. We have customers trying to do lookalike audiences. And that's not all done with LLMs. So AI is a much bigger grouping of technology than just LLMs. LLMs happen to be kind of taking over most of the airtime right now because they're advancing so rapidly. But we're seeing all sorts of creative use. We're also seeing that step 0 is that you have to have a great data strategy, right? Where are you going to get your data? And you need to be able to get it in real time if it's some kind of customer facing use case. And it's way easier to get it from one source than go find 7 or 8 different people across your business and knock on their door and say, hey, can I get a batch file feed of your data at the end of every night? And then you have to set up a data wrangling and a bunch of pipelines. And that's an absolute nightmare and will slow you down. Whereas with this rich real-time data set, you can get working and at least prototyping right away.
Actually, I'd like to add something on there. When Jeff mentioned real time, we're seeing that is absolutely key. And I'm going to back up and I'm going to give up a little ground, but then I'm going to take back that ground. So a lot of people, with CDPs said, well, do I really need real time? There are CDPs out there that aren't real time. I don't know if I have to react in a few hundred milliseconds or a few seconds, et cetera, et cetera. And the truth is, sure, there are plenty of applications where you have a CDP where the real time isn't needed at the moment. However, if you back up to that strategy layer and ask yourself, what kind of experience do I want to give my customers? How do I want to run this business? Of course, you're not going to want this hyper distant relationship from your client where things are all removed in time and batch processing can be done every day or two and your systems can react. And the more you bring AI into the equation and the more it speeds up your insights and your ability to interact, the more you have something to do and to say that is immediately relevant, and therefore it drives even more the need for real time. So the two feed on each other. The process improvements from AI speed things up, and then they drive more dynamic, more real-time interaction needs with clients. And then the CDP and your infrastructure has to be able to support the real-time nature of all that.
Yeah, in Sav, I think we might want to spend just 1 minute because this term CDP is so overused in the industry. I think there's 150 companies that say they are a CDP because they have some piece of a customer data supply chain. Tealium's view has always been that a CDP should be a neutral layer that sits in between all the customer experience systems. As software has eaten the world, companies use more and more different software packages up at the customer experience layer and the back-end data storage and data analysis and data processing layer. Because again, as software has eaten the world, everyone has more back-end systems now too. And our fundamental belief is that companies need a clearinghouse layer, a real-time data fabric that listens to all the customer experience systems, takes all that event level data in real time, associates it with visitor profiles in real time, enriches them based on badges, metrics, attributes, list arrays that you've set up in your own language in real time, and then activates. So put someone in or out of a Meta or a Google or a Pinterest or a audience and or in and out of an email audience, and then also synchronizes and updates the back-end data warehouse, which is where the heavy workloads and the heavy data processing and a lot of the AI model training is happening. But our definition of a CDP is that layer that is neutral in the middle, that's always listening, and it's got basically a living profile of every visitor, whether they're known or unknown. And it's constantly updating it based on all the events that happen across every single touch point. And this isn't just websites. We're talking mobile apps, call centers, betting kiosks, ATMs, any place where there's data. And so that is if you think about that, that's the universal, that's where you know the most about your visitors. And to Aric's point, up until the last millisecond when you want to fire off this AI-fueled experience. And so that's why you want to take that data and populate what's called the context window of the LLM prompt with all that up to the microsecond data, millisecond data, and ask it a query and then react. And so we'll go to your next question, but I just want to make sure the definition of this webinar is about CDPs. And, there's people that used to be email engines that are now saying they're CDPs, and people that are CMSs saying they're CDPs. And for Tealium, at least, and I believe Zion and Zion is general agreement, it's really about data, right? And there's a lot of work to do up and down stack. Just solving the data problem is enough work in our view that's going to keep us busy for the next 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. I don't feel I have to jump to another question because the point you were making was very relevant. Also for the audience, we have access to Jeff and Aric right now. So any questions you guys have, please pop them in the chat and we'll try and address them as we go through. But a couple of things that you both said that I wanted to just highlight for the audience. So Aric, in the chart that you showed in the diagram, what a lot of people forget is those arrows need to be real time and the boxes need to be real time if you have a real time ambition on a use case. So usually what will happen is a couple of tools will be real time, but then the connections between them and the connections on the edges, that's where you lose out a lot of immediate response times, and that's where things start to really struggle, I think, when you're trying to have the end-to-end use case. The other problem that happens is a lot of tools are not easily connected to all other tools in your stack. So you usually need some sort of middleman or middle tool that plays nice on all sides, and then usually that's where you add the context. Usually that's where you add the consent, and then you suddenly get this data layer that you can act on. And then, Jeff, to your point, what I love about what we both have said is AI is not the answer. It is only part of the answer. And if you don't have the rest of it figured out, AI is not going to solve your problem, right? There has never been a better example or manifestation of the phrase garbage in, garbage out than AI. It's just that simple. AI is the one tool out there that if you don't have the right source data, it will not give you the right value. So, Jeff, I actually wanted to keep talking about that. So much of what people were expecting from AI has not come true, while some things have. So people were expecting AI to take over intelligence and decisions and choosing the audience for me and telling me what I should say to that audience and which channel I should say it in. They were expecting to hand over so much of their marketing to AI. But on the flip side, that is not panning out. What is panning out is translation and code and maybe some content creation, maybe some scoring. So instead of the very broad expectation that everybody had, where they're finding successes in very narrow applications of AI, which I think is where AI shines. And like you were saying, the way that you have planned to take advantage of this makes the biggest difference in how fast you can get going, right? So just thinking about the challenges that people have, what are you advising any company that's telling you they have an AI ambition, but they're struggling with getting going? How are you advising them?
So yeah, I'll give you another great real world example from this morning where I was with a large movie theater chain that is really investing heavily in a highly personalized experience across web, across mobile devices while they're in the theaters, when you're booking tickets. And their aspirations are to actually be able to do real-time, dynamically generated, AI-generated content, trailers, over-the-top television to people about movies. And so, if Jeff's a Dune fan and Dune 2 is coming and Jeff's watching a show, then let's give him a personalized content that not just shows a Dune trailer, but also shows my brand as a theater chain, as an example. Now, they will not be able to pull that off unless they have that clean data layer of the profile of this visitor to feed into the AI-powered engine that's going to understand their interests. It's going to create literally in real time dynamic content that will be more interesting to them so that they'll have a higher conversion. And so there are companies out there that are going to do that. So to me, that's kind of like a year away, but it will happen, right? And this stuff is happening so fast. And right now there would be too much processing lag. But if you're not thinking about that end state a year out, in building your data layer and what attributes do you want to collect about this visitor's behavior, and then you're not going to be able to deliver on that when it is a viable option in the marketplace, let's say 9-12 months from now. So it all really just goes back to, again, you can't have a successful AI. I agree with Aric. There's no such thing as an AI strategy. There's your business strategy and how you can accomplish it with data and AI and other digital tools. And you have to go back to having very well thought out hygiene and a data layer approach that you mentioned consent, that is privacy regulation aware, so that whatever you are doing is not going to get you in trouble down the road, right? So if people are not consented in, not opted in, you certainly can't deliver them data off their personalized experience. So that's kind of a data orchestration mandate, but again, step 0 is think through what kind of business and digital experiences do you want to deliver, and how do you create the attributes. If you're a software engineer, think of it as the schema of your database. But what are the attributes you want to collect and know about your known and unknown visitors, and store, and then activate on when things kick off in real time? So I think, Sab, your question was, why aren't we seeing all this magic today? Right. And I do think most of us do see magic when we ask a chat GPT thing on our iPhone something about, or our Android phone, something about, the breadth of human knowledge. And all of a sudden you get this answer back. You're like, I cannot believe this thing knows all that. And then you can go to some completely opposite data point in a far obscure, Library of Congress dusty corner, and this thing knows that too. So I think we all are dazzled by the totality of human knowledge is now available to me at the edge of my phone. And if you know how to do prompt engineering, you can actually ask it to do some very sophisticated things. So now, how does that map into enterprise business workflows? That's where it gets more complicated. And now there are privacy regulations, and there's parochialism inside the large companies where, oh wait, that's the email team's data. Oh wait, no, that's the call center team's data. And so what we're seeing is companies and software vendors. The third thing you have is all these entrepreneurs taking these new tools and creating new solutions. And so, we believe it's definitely happening, and it's getting baked in at every level. You got in-house projects that are looking for data sources and creating prototypes. You have software entrepreneurs that are creating solutions that will deal with things like that dynamic content optimization I mentioned, right? So all this creativity is happening and will get into production. Not all of it will, by definition, right? It's just Darwinian soup of in-house projects and new companies' offerings. At the end of the day, though, you can't use any of it if you don't have a great data layer and tracking consent and privacy and security. And if you're in healthcare, and you have to be HIPAA compliant, so we work with I'd say a quarter of our customers are large healthcare providers that have to be very disciplined about who they can target with what information. And so there's data governance required. And I think it's that hurdle that's making it much harder to see this stuff in the enterprise than it is to see it in a personal experience on your phone.
Yeah, my Google Pixel 9 order is in, and I cannot wait to play with the AI on the phone. So I agree with you guys. AI is all around us right now, but when you try to put it in action in a marketing context, advertising context, in a customer engagement context, then all this reality of governance and consent and data organization that you talked about comes into play. So, Aric, I'm going to give you Sam's question from the chat, and then we'll go back to the session.
I see that one, and I've gone ahead and sent him a LinkedIn invite as well. It's a great question. So the question is, what KPIs or value metrics do you typically see enterprises putting behind CDPs to show business return on investment?
Yep.
So there are a lot of answers to that question, but I will tell you that the slam dunk one that is easily provable in a very short period of time, and that we see over and over and over again, and we can get you, a full-blown case study on this right after the call, is return on ad spend.
Yeah.
We have a case study, it's public, of work we did with our client, the Phoenix Suns NBA team, and we were able to show a 25% improvement in return on ad spend using Tealium. And it is such a slam dunk. And in the case study, and we can actually, I assume Natalie has a way to send it to everybody who attended. So we'll get her, she can send it out. And in the case study, you will actually see that we compared all of the Tealium CDP driven campaigns with the non-CDP driven campaigns, and clear A/B test right there. Huge improvement in return on ad spend. No question, no ambiguity, no, well, was it a seasonal thing? what period did you compare to? None of that ambiguity. Straight A/B test and amazing results. And we see that all the time. That alone, for most organizations, is enough to justify the expenditure, and then everything else, the improved customer experience, the getting people out of a campaign and into the next right campaign once some conversion action happens, rather than making them, wait till a person or an agency does the weekly or bi-weekly list upload to suppress them. And then another one, we'll send this out too. There's another white paper. So Natalie, I know, is listening, and Leslie at our team, just remind me afterwards. We have another short white paper that compares using a CDP in an org versus not using a CDP in an org in terms of how much time savings you get by dealing with automated suppression versus manual suppression. So suppressing, sure, you may save a little bit of money on not giving somebody the wrong ad, but you save a lot of brand damage by not giving somebody the wrong ad. Why are you selling me that? I just converted 20 minutes ago. Stop doing that. Don't you understand your customer? And this little white paper contains what does an org's time usage when they use manual suppression look like? And it looks at media and marketing automation uses of suppression, and what happens when you use automated suppression through a CDP like Tealium. So we'll get both of those out to everyone after the webinar.
Yeah, and that, since Sam's at a large global pharma, one of the most amazing companies in the world, I'll drill a little deeper into that industry, right? So what industry is it more important to getting the right content to the right audience at the right time in the right geography while following all the regulations? And so if you think about an oncology or a pulmonology drug, if it's a potential patient, you want to give them one set of content. If it's a doctor, you want to give them another set of content. If it's a researcher, potentially another set of content. And in the pharma business, the prescribers, the actual healthcare providers, are the ones that you really want to overinvest in influencing, because you can get script lift of 10x out of one healthcare provider, whereas you'd have to go get build demand in the end consumer in a much broader audience to get that same script lift, right? And you all have to roll out medications geography by geography, country by country, right? So what, in our view, a customer data platform, again, back to our definition of it, is where you orchestrate content journeys and customer journeys through data orchestration. This idea in the industry that you could have this beautiful WYSIWYG thing where you orchestrate journeys across a beautiful page and everything just flows, that's been proven incorrect. Why? Because there's too many different twists and turns and permutations of experiences. You can't put it on a page. So we believe that in real time, you're going to enhance visitor profiles and fire off the next experience step, whether it's whichever content they get or which email audience you put them in, or the first page personalized content they get the next time they come to your website, or that the call center is informed with what they were looking at on the website when they call the call center. So all of that, Sam, drives improvement in conversion rates, and your KPI is going to be different depending on the time, the kind of business you're in. You're not e-commerce, so it's not actual point of sale, but a conversion of script lift that potentially could be tied back to a region where you ran a campaign could be very interesting.
Before we go to the next question, I just want to remind the listeners, rare to get access to two individuals like Aric and Jeff here, and they're answering questions, so don't hold back. And I know, Aric, you wanted to take the next one from Colin.
Yeah, so the next one here, what do you believe is the most exciting piece of innovation on the Tealium platform, and how do partners like Zion help in that innovation and deployment process? So let me take that in two parts. So I think the packaged up in the Tealium stack, the ability to do event management, really fast pipes to get your data from here to there, the ability to collect that first party data, and then very differentiating also for Tealium. A lot of their clients also use TIQ, so an enterprise tag management system that definitely has superiority, to just using Google Tag Manager. We've seen that a lot. Again, I'm talking about across the whole stack. When you combine that with their really tight definition, I think it's 200 millisecond of real time, that's big. And I've seen some really interesting, and by the way, the person that asked this question does not work for Tealium. I know I sound like a Tealium commercial, but I really just am answering their question. The relatively new Moments and Moments API features that allow you to get your real-time data, let's say, right over to a call center, so that you can pull data out of that data layer and feed it right into a call center person so they know what's going on with that customer in that moment on the website and many other things. And then also their ability to inject the ability, another Moments IQ product, collecting zero-party data on a website in real time and getting that right back in the Tealium platform. So there's neat things there. And in fairness, sure, every vendor is going to have different things, but these are some particularly useful things that we've seen come out over the past few months. And then the second part of your question, how do we help in this? Real truth is clients have ambitions and they buy technology, and they do not typically have the organizations to get really far, really fast. The tech is new to them. Their organizations are often usually very siloed. There's usually a champion and people that aren't so sure. They can often spend months solving their own communications problems, deciding on use cases, and they're generally doing it with no frameworks. Meaning, there's no CDP use case development framework floating around the typical mid-market or large enterprise. Why would you have one if you've never done this before? So bringing those structured frameworks, the workshopping, the deep technical insight, where we can say to a client, no, don't go down that path, go down this path first. Trust me, this path will take 3 weeks, that path will take 8 months. So that accelerated deployment and that advice on how to prioritize and how to get the most out of not just the CDP, but reconciling it against all the other tech you have in the stack, because the CDP's job is to interconnect with all of that tech and to leverage it. So it's really I don't want to hire a builder, no matter how talented they are, who's building their first house. And clients are often building their first house when it comes to a CDP. I want to hire me if I've built hundreds of houses, seen all the problems, know all the been there, done that, don't do that. And it really does boil down to that.
Yeah, we Tealium is a software company, and we want to build the best software and put it in the hands of the smartest people, and that includes Zion. They have deep knowledge about what our software can do, but they also have the time that we don't have to come in and inventory all the assets that you have in your MarTech, CRM, ad tech stacks, and really listen and then put hands on keyboards. We do a little bit of that, but again, our job is to keep building great software and adding more and more to the roadmap. Like I would have answered Moments API and Moments IQ as well, and Tealium for AI. We're excited about all of that. Also excited about just basic things like Active Insights, where you can now get much better dashboarding and reporting out of the platform than you could. And we've been building for 13 years, and every year we roll out more. Moments IQ was our decision to help you start collecting zero-party data, help our customers, because with the deprecation of third-party cookies, maybe someday, but even if they don't get fully shut down, they're still getting blocked out. The first-party data that we've always preached is your most valuable strategic asset. And then sometimes what's even better is just to reach out into the customer journey and ask them a quick question to divine their intent or to ask their intent directly from them rather than to try to divine it by looking at all this data. And so we're super excited about all of that. And I go back to the previous question of how do you get ROI out of all this stuff? It's funny that Aric answered that because the first place I go whenever I visit a customer, including yesterday afternoon and this morning, was, have you deployed your conversion APIs yet? Because if you're doing any advertising, and at our recent Tealium conferences, we had Pinterest, Snapchat, Amazon ads, and TikTok all on stage. And surprisingly, the blended improvement in return on ad spend when people go from client side to server side is that 25% that Aric is going to send you his case study on.
Yeah, it's really interesting you mentioned those four: TikTok, LinkedIn, Snapchat, and
Pinterest.
Pinterest being there. So they actually did write a session at Digital Velocity, and somebody else I remember during the session asked some similar questions, and all of them on stage at the same time said, if you went to the Zion presentation, two of our people, John Spencer and Alexandra Silva, did earlier in the day, that's your answer on what to do about Kathy. But I mean, Jeff is absolutely right. Some of the platforms you may think as a digital media person, so I'm going to speak directly to the social digital media buyers out there. You may think that, for example, because Facebook has now implemented more sophisticated modeling to still give you your rough campaign return on investment, return on ad spend, even with missing data. Yes, the metric being reported can help you, and you might think, well, so why do I need the conversion API? Here's why. Because just getting the campaign ROI reported better is only part of the story. An individual customer needs to be excluded from an audience and moved into a new audience when they convert or take whatever your conversion action is. And no amount of modeling on Meta's part can substitute for that. The modeling doesn't allow you to get Sally, who came to your website, who did such and such, into the right audience if Meta and nobody else knows that she converted. So it's still absolutely essential. The modeled results that Meta has brought out are great at a macro level, but they do not deal with the detailed micro level issues.
Yeah. And Aric, what I love about what you just said is, to me, that is the nuance of why the CDPs and AI are sort of a match made in heaven. It's because AI needs very specific data at very specific time to make the right output, to give the right decision. So when an event happens, like you were saying earlier about context, you might not know other things about this user that you have in the CDP, but they were not available at the point of collection. So if you're going to try to give that event to an AI model and get the right output, you need to add more information to that event before you send it to AI. The CDP helps there. Other cases, you need to understand other things that the user has done before you put them in an audience and take them out of an audience. CDP helps there. So there's so many things that have to happen to the data before it goes to AI and after it comes from AI that most tools are not set up for that. And that's usually the biggest place where the CDP helps you. It's almost the way, like the way I've been thinking about it is CDP is where you reflect your business strategy in your data. And then that's how it plays out through all your other channels and tools. So we're getting close to the end. We have a great question from Courtney, and I'm going to give this question to both of you as the last question for the day. She's asking, what have been some of the biggest fails you've seen with AI? I'm going to change it to, what is the biggest fail and one biggest success that you would like to share with the audience regarding AI?
Aric, you want to go first?
I would say the biggest fail I've seen is, or one of, is organizations, I've seen this a few times, that thought that by using the API to GPT, that exactly what they could get out of the GPT chatbot would be what they could get out of the GPT via API. So meaning, well, if I prompt it this way in the chatbot, I get this kind of an answer. Okay, if I do that via API, I will get the exact same kind of thing. The problem is that a lot of what you get out of the chatbot, where you want data analyzed and things like that, the GPT chatbot is not just using the LLM to answer the question. It's also constructing Python code and running that code and doing analysis, etc. You can't get that via the API. So a lot of people thought, well, everything I can do here in the chatbot, I'll be able to do. Let me just get one of my software engineers to access it via the API. And it isn't anywhere near that simple for that type of an application. So we've seen people have to go back and really rethink that.
I like it. Jeff, do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, well, my thought is it's not the single biggest fail, but it is one of the single biggest trends I see is companies that have been using CDPs for many years tend to have a set of data attributes that grows very large, and people that deployed attributes for badges, metrics, whatever, lists, arrays, for things in 10 years ago, and they're no longer being used, but they're still there. And so I do think it is really important, and our team works with, as does Aric's team, works with customers that have, let's call it, very mature data layers, to not just assume that all that should still be there. Right? You always need an evolving data strategy, and you will find yourself, when it's time to start using AI tools, you're going to really want that data layer to be crisp and not too much fluff in it or meaningless data. And that also reduces your amount of processing costs and everything else. So I think it just goes back to having a very well thought out strategy about who the personas are that you want to target with your experiences, and what kind of experiences you want to give them through which systems. And then that all maps back to what data elements from which systems do you want to capture and modify profiles based on that.
I love it.
Well, that will lead to the biggest success, which is you will then be like the guy I met with yesterday who's like, this is amazing. I'm showing my boss the next 3 best steps for our sales team, and he loves it. And I'm a hero inside the company.
I love it. What a great way to end. So yeah, I hope everybody got something out of this great discussion. I love chatting with you, Aric and Jeff. You guys have so much experience that it comes out in so many different ways. The best takeaway I can offer to all of you guys as we head out is the CDP is meant to organize your data and send it to the right place at the right time. And AI needs the right data at the right time. And so that is the two technologies are designed to work together just inherently in how they think about data. The output of one is really the input of the other, and they just kind of live together very nicely. And we're finding a lot of success with customers who are looking at the data rather than the technology when implementing these things. That's how you will unlock these powers. So thank you. Please reach out to Jeff, Aric, or myself on LinkedIn. Send us your questions if you have more, and we'll catch you at the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Sure.